Hi, I'm Dennis Phillips, and welcome to Everyday Reloading and Shooting. Okay, so I'm going to run a test and do a comparison between Hornady's 73 grain ELD Match bullet and their 75 grain boat tail hollow point match bullet. As you can see, there's only 2 grains difference between the two at 73 and 75 grains, but there's a significant difference between how these two bullets look. The ELD Match is slightly longer and has a polymer tip, whereas the boat tail hollow point has an actual hollow point on it. But the back end of the bullets are shaped similarly. It's the front end that's different. But in the manual, when you go to the Hornady reloading manual, you'll see that the 73 grain ELD Match and the 75 grain ELD Match are listed on the same page, and they have the same charge weights for all of their powders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a comparison between the two. I've looked back at some of my previous targets when I was shooting the ELD Match, and also when I was shooting the 75 grain boat tail hollow point. Both of these were with the accurate 2495 powder. And I had another one here with 75 grains at 24, using the accurate 2495 powder. And what I found here, some of my best groups were at 20 grains with a group of 0.50 inches, 20.9 grains with a group of 0.37, at 21.1 grains, this was a 1.17 group, but you've got a flower here. The other four grouped at 0.41, and then I had a group here of 0.57, and the best 4 out of 5 at 0.40. And then for the 73 grain ELD Match, at 20 grains, I had a group of 0.54 inches. There was also a group of 0.69. And at 21.4 grains, I had a group of 0.87 and a group of 0.53, with the best 4 out of 5 being 0.30 inches there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run groups. I've averaged these out, and I see where some of my better groups were at the various charge weights. At 20 grains, for example, had some good groups at 21.4 with the 73 and the 75 at 20 grains, both grouped well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 20 grains, and I'm going to jump to 20.3, 20.6, 20.9, and then 21.1. And we're going to compare both bullets at those charge weights and see how they do. All right, we're back at the Georgia Gun Club shooting my Ruger American 223. We're going to be comparing two bullets, the Hornady 75 grain boat tail hollow point and the Hornady 73 grain ELD Match bullets. We'll be shooting accurate 2495 powder with charges ranging from 20 grains to 21.1 grains. And we're going to be shooting 10 5-shot groups. There will be 5 5-shot groups for each bullet, and we'll be comparing to see which of those performs best. They both have the same charge weights for each group of 5, so let's get going and see how it goes. You're welcome to enjoy the music while I fast forward through my shooting, or you can fast forward to the end to see the results. All right, let's bring them in and take a look. All right, after I shot this first group, I adjusted it 1 click down and 2 clicks to the left. And then we had a pretty decent group here on the second group. I know that I pulled this one. I remember as soon as I pulled the trigger, I thought that's a bad pull right there. Grouped pretty well. All right, let's take them home and take a look. So before you measure your groups, you want to turn the target over and make sure all of these bullet holes are pressed down. So by doing that, you can see this nice gray ring right here, and that gives you an edge to measure from compared to this one that has not been pressed down. So nice clean edge to measure, ragged hole. So we're going to press all of those down before we make our measurements. So let's measure these and see how they look. So as I measure these, I'm going to be looking at two things. I'm going to be looking at the extreme spread, and I'm also going to be looking at the best 4 out of 5. So the way I do this is I turn my caliper on, and I take one of the rounds that I was shooting, in this case 223, and I'm going to zero that out, just like that, with the bullet in there. That way, when you measure the extreme spread, you've subtracted out the diameter of the bullet, and so that gives you a measurement from center to center. And in this case, for this particular group, this is 0.84 inches. So I'm going to make a note of that right here at the bottom right of that target, 0.84. And then I'm going to measure the best 4 out of 5, which in this case is 0.58. And I'm going to mark that in red, and I'm going to put a mark from the center of one bullet to the center of the next where I'm measuring, so 0.58. So I'm going to go ahead and measure all of these, and then we'll come back and analyze the results. Okay, so here are my results from the range today, shooting a 73 grain ELD match and comparing that with a 75 grain boat tail hollow point, shooting accurate 2495 powder at 100 yards, and I have charge weights from 20 grains to 21.1 grains. I shot a warm-up shot before starting this group, and so the first group with the ELD match grouped pretty well at 0.86 inches, with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.40. The bottom center of the target was my point of aim, and so since I was a little bit high and to the right on my next target, and thereafter I adjusted the scope 2 clicks to the left and 1 click down. And so on the 75 grain hollow point at the 20 grains, I shot a 0.53 group with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.49. Moving on to 20.3 grains, that had an extreme spread of 0.8 inches with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.76. The 75 grain shot an extreme spread of 0.76 and a best 4 out of 5 at 0.70. At 20.6 grains of powder, I shot a group of 0.84 inches with a best 4 out of 5 at 0.58 with the 73 grain ELD. And then on the 75 grain, I had a group of 1.16. I had a flyer here but otherwise it grouped fairly well at 0.75 inches for the best 4 out of 5. Going on down to 20.9 grains, the ELD Match had a extreme spread of 0.73 inches with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.62. And the 75 grain had a extreme spread of 0.95 inches with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.66. I was shooting to the left. I think as these loads increase, I think that's causing the barrel to torque more as the bullet travels through the rifling. So I adjusted the scope one click to the right for targets 9 and 10. And at 21.1 grains, I had an extreme spread with the ELD Match of 0.79 inches. I had this one flyer right here. Otherwise, the best 4 out of 5 grouped at 0.40 inches. And on the 75 grain, we had two flyers, and so that one grouped at 1.19 inches, and we had a best 4 out of 5 at 0.92. So if you average these all the way down from top to bottom, the the 73 grain ELD Match averaged an extreme spread of 0.80 inches, with the best 4 out of 5 shooting 0.55, and the 75 grain hollow point had an extreme spread average of 0.92, with the best 4 out of 5 averaging 0.70. So it appears that the ELD Match is shooting better. Now, you could probably blame shooter error on this large group and this large group, both of these just over an inch. But regardless, you've got the same shooter shooting both loads and both rounds. So the 73 grain ELD Match shot a little better. It shot 12 hundredths of an inch better on average at 0.80 inches versus 0.92. And on the average 4 out of 5, the ELD Match averaged 0.55 inches versus the 75 grain at 0.70 inches. So it was 15 hundredths of an inch better. There's another aspect to these targets that we need to address as well, and that is the charge weight and the load that we were using. As mentioned, the charge weights for the 73 ELD Match and the 75 grain boat tail hollow point are identical in the manual. So which of these charge weights perform best since we have the same charge for each bullet? Well, if we look at the average of the extreme spread and the average for the best 4 out of 5 at each charge weight, at 20 grains, this is also the velocity here, at 2,400 feet per second, with 20 grains, these two targets averaged an extreme spread of 0.70 and a best 4 out of 5 at 0.44 inches. At 20.3, we had an average extreme spread of 0.78 with a best 4 out of 5 at 0.73. At 20.6 grains, we had an average spread of 1 inch with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.67. At 20.9 grains, we had an average extreme spread of 0.84 and the best 4 out of 5 at 0.64. And then at 21.1 grains, we had an average extreme spread of 0.99 and a best 4 out of 5 at 0.66. So my recommendation on this is that the ELD Match gave us the best 4 out of 5 and the best average on the extreme spread, and 20 grains of powder gave us the best average overall between the two. So if I had to make a recommendation on these, I would say that I would go with the 73 grain ELD Match at 20 grains of accurate 2495 powder, because that gave us the best 4 out of 5 at 0.40 of the entire groups that we shot. That was the best average that we had. So there you go. There's my recommendation, 73 grain ELD Match and 20 grains of accurate 2495 powder. Just as a side note, I have seen excellent groups at 2,500 feet per second with this particular round, and these came in at an average of 0.84 with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.64. So that was my second best of the day. But still, I'm going to do some tests where I'm going to run just the 20 grains of accurate 2495 powder and this 73 grain ELD match and shoot several groups with just that load and see how those do. All right, there we go. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you have a comment, please leave that below. As always, I hope you will like and share this video with your friends, and please remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching.